Sevda and her friend Semer were planning a surprise birthday for Asli, whose birthday was today. They didn't go to school today because it was the weekend. Asli would have turned 12 years old today. Semer and Sevda had gotten permission from their mother and were on their way to Asli's house with a cake and presents in their hands. Even though it was only noon, it suddenly got dark. Semer said she was afraid of the dark and tried to take Sevda's arm. Sevda was holding the cake and Semer was holding the gifts, but Sevda's hands were having a hard time carrying the huge cake, and she realized that her burden had increased even more with Semer trying to take her arm. Sevda knew why it was getting dark. There was a solar eclipse today, and it didn't scare her that it was getting dark. She said to Semer, "It is dark because there is a solar eclipse. Don't be afraid, it will pass soon," she said. As if Semer had not heard her, she had already started to walk faster. She didn't realize that she was tugging Sevda while walking fast with her head down. Suddenly, Semer got so scared that she gave the gifts in her hand to Sevda and started to run unconsciously down the street without saying anything. Now Semer was all alone in the dark street. She was just running without even knowing where she was running, in which direction. It was as if she thought she would find the bright air in the direction she was running. He was almost out of breath. He ran. He couldn't think of anything while running. She had already left Sevda behind and thrown herself into the dark streets without knowing what she was doing. It seemed to Semer as if she had been running for years. As if her legs weren't listening to her, she just kept running. Then the sky suddenly began to lighten and caught his attention. Gasping for breath, she put both hands on her knees and paused. He had run without looking back and thought nothing of it. Now it was light, but he was just trying to regulate his breathing, as if he had forgotten why and how he had run so far. Suddenly she felt someone touch her from behind. She was so frightened that she didn't even dare to turn around and see who it was, but screamed and kept running. This time she would not stop. She would run as far as she could. Now that it was dark, she tried to be calmer, but she couldn't manage it. As he kept running, not knowing what to do, he heard a voice calling his name. How did this voice know his name? He felt he could run no more and decided to stop where he was. The voice was getting closer and closer. He wanted to turn around, but it was as if his body, like his legs, would not listen to him and would not let him look back. Finally, that voice started to come from right behind her. Her body, which was not listening to Semer, suddenly turned back with the help of an arm pulling her as if she was listening to that voice. At that moment her mouth fell open in astonishment. She recognized this face looking at her suspiciously. This face was none other than her friend Sevda. "I've been running after you for how many minutes, Semer? Why did you run away like you were crazy?" Semer had nothing to say, so she couldn't give any explanation. Because Sevda ran after her, the cake in the box was already crushed. They walked in silence towards Asli's house. On the way, Sevda told Semer about the eclipse, and Semer learned that she should not be afraid of what she knew.